Because of the following special program, Hawaii Five-0 will not be presented this evening.
There will be spoilers ahead. Lots of spoilers, so be careful, won't you? Hey folks, welcome to this special interruption episode of Max Mike Movies. We were set to start a new series this week, but then something kinda huge happened. Francis Ford Coppola released a new film, and it's a big one. When it premiered at Cannes, it utterly divided the audience into the "it's brilliant" side or the "this movie is batshit crazy" side, or as we like to call them, Team Edward and Team Jacob. Max and I both went to see this film in the theater as it felt like an important movie to see on a big screen, possibly before it disappeared. And we have questions and observances. Mr. Coppola couldn't make it, not least because we didn't ask him, so you'll just have to rely on us. And who is us? Sitting in his appointed throne, all set about with fever trees, is our host, Max. Who put Megalon in my coffee, Levine? Give us a quote, Max.
Help us, Jack Jaguar. Help us defeat Megalon.
Yeah, we'll get back to that. And I am Mike. Megalon is off! Loose. Usually we'd like to go to the poll question here, but we're going to save that for next week, whenever that happens to be, because as a special episode, this could be heard anytime. Instead, we'll just go right into
The facts.
Megalopolis' budget. Well, we know Francis hawked most of his vineyard to pay for this, so it cost $120 million of his own money. To be fair, as we record this, it's only been out a week.
Yeah.
It's made $4 million.
Yeah, that apparently was not what it was supposed to make the opening weekend.
Well, as we all know, movies luckily continue to make more and more each week. Oh, no, it's the other way around. Yeah. It seems like this is not the first time he's done this. Apocalypse Now and One from the Heart, you remember that, were financed the same way, though the latter film bankrupted him for quite a while. Hadn't seen or don't even remember hearing about that. I watched the preview for that this afternoon. Coppola started thinking about this movie.
Oh, dear.
It's a love story starring Terry Garr, whom I like, and somebody I don't remember ever having heard of before that looked a lot like the professor from Gilligan's Island. And it just, anyway. Coppola started thinking about this movie as far back as the late 70s while he was making Apocalypse Now, though it was more a case of his collecting scraps and pasting them in books than actual production. Pre-production started in 2001. However, the film ground to a halt because of the events of 9/11. Supposedly, a page in that original script predicted the terrorist attacks.
Oh.
Yeah, page 166 apparently is the page in question.
That is where you get your kick.
On page 166. This is the fifth film of Coppola's that Lawrence Fishburne has appeared in, starting with Apocalypse Now. If you look closely, you'll realize that certain elements of New York are shown backwards. The Statue of Liberty holds the torch in her left hand, for example. This is,
so it's in the mirror universe.
Yeah, it's Doctor Strange multiverse of something. Megalon.
Pancakes.
Yeah.
Multiverse of pancakes, yep.
Okay. This is the first film Coppola's directed since 2015's Distant Vision. You know that one, Max. It's the movie where
where they do all the thing with the distant and the visions in the distance.
Yeah.
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 Totally know that one.
We've had some interesting stand-ins for New York before. This one was new to me. Most of this film was shot in, you guessed it, Georgia.
That was my first guess, totally.
Apparently,
because of all the peach trees
in New York City.
Yeah.
Apparently, they had built
peach orchard.
The famous peach orchard of Manhattan. Yeah, they apparently had built a new movie studio in Georgia, and this is, I think, one of the first films shot there. So, yeah, and it was cheaper. One of the things Coppola did with the budget money was to buy a motel. He used it to house cast and crew, later turning it into production facilities, and then finally it was turned back into a hotel, though one specifically made for filmmakers as the production equipment remained. So yeah, it's like,
that's actually kind of clever.
Well, it's not like clever. It's actually kind of cool. It's like, hey, young filmmakers, if you want to go make movies in this state that usually you don't make movies in, but hey, just happens to have a studio now and want to complete your film here, you can come and stay and do that. So,
that's cool.
Yeah, whatever else you say about Coppola, he is very big on the next generation of filmmakers. Making the movie was apparently somewhat difficult. A quote by one of the crew illustrates this pretty well. Quote, "He would often show up in the mornings before these big sequences, and because no plan had been put in place, and because he wouldn't allow his collaborators to put a plan in place, he would often just sit in his trailer for hours on end, wouldn't talk to anybody, was often smoking marijuana, and then he'd come out and whip up something that didn't make sense and that didn't follow anything anybody had spoken about or anything that was on the page, and we'd all just go along with it, trying to make the best out of it," end quote. Coppola,
so he was high during a lot of this?
Coppola denies smoking weed, saying that he hadn't touched the stuff since 2017. He didn't apparently deny the rest of it, but we'll come back to that.
That would have explained kind of a lot, really.
Well, supposedly, I saw an interview, and he was invited to go on. Oh, who was the big chef who recently committed suicide? Bourdain, Anthony Bourdain. He went on Anthony Bourdain's show, and he saw himself and was appalled at his weight. And it's like, I need to lose weight. And one of the things that he stopped doing was smoking weed because, of course...
Oh, yeah, it gives you the munchies.
Oh, I know nothing about that. Wait. Nope, I've heard that.
I read it in the church circular.
The penny saver. So a place I always go when I want to get rid of unwanted children. See our entire episode on Juno.
I want a parakeet.
No, you don't. There's been a big bit of controversy regarding inappropriate behavior by Coppola on the set. Supposedly, he was seen coming up to young women extras during some of the party scenes and kissing them on the cheek, or, depending on who you ask, having them sit on his lap. Some in the cast deny this, Coppola stating that those he kissed were women he'd known for a long time. Others claim that he would suddenly appear from behind them, kiss and hug them without warning. This, of course, overshadows the whole movie, unless you hadn't heard about it before you went to see the movie, in which case it undershadows the whole... However.
Shadows?
Yeah, sure. Max, do you have any bits you'd like to tid here?
Well, I got stuff about Coppola himself.
Yeah,
why don't save that?
Give us some stuff background about the big director.
Okay. Well, Coppola, we actually have a connection to him from a previous series.
Yeah, we do.
In that he was, in fact, one of the children of the Corman. Roger Corman was one of the guys who gave him his first shot.
Yeah.
Particularly, he wrote the movie Dementia 13.
Mm-hmm. He directed it, too.
He did. He directed Battle Beyond the Sun.
Yep. Well,
and he directed 3 to 4 days worth of The Terror.
To be fair, he only did the English adaptation part of Battle Beyond the Sun, because although...
excuse me.
Battle Beyond the Sun, I wonder where I've heard a title similar to that before or later. Corman.
Yeah. Most people, he's best known, of course, for the Godfather movies, Apocalypse Now, and among us film snobs, The Conversation. See our entire episode on The Conversation.
Yeah, really good movie.
He has a surprisingly diverse portfolio.
Yeah.
He wrote Captain EO, the Michael Jackson presentation thing at Disneyland, that weird ride. I don't know how you describe it. It was a ride / music video experience.
It wasn't a ride. It was a 3D movie experience that had stuff. I think, was it one of the things that had stuff spraying in you? I can't remember.
I don't
think so. I saw it.
Yeah, he wrote that. He also directed the musical Finian's Rainbow.
Okay.
Also, he was the producer for American Graffiti, and he directed Peggy Sue Got Married. Actually, a really nice film. A very kind of sweet movie about time travel that doesn't really make the time travel the major part.
Yes, our entire series on time travel.
Mm-hmm.
Because
of the wonderful things he does.
La 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 la.
Yeah,
Coppola musical.
Coppola, in terms of success rate, is He's kind of hit or miss. He has directed 40 movies. He's produced almost 80. He's written a bunch. A lot of them, most people, including us, have never heard of.
Yeah. Like Tetro.
I mean, yes.
Or Twixt.
Or Wind.
Wind of Remembrance.
Wind. Yes. Wind. Or Gardens of Stone. Now, actually, there were a couple he directed that people do know, sort of teen movies like Rumblefish and The Outsider.
Yeah, I've never seen them. Somehow he did both of those the same year.
Yeah, apparently they're very popular. They're supposed to be good. I've never seen them. And, of course, his classic, The Bellboy and the Playgirls.
Huh?
He died. That was like his first.
Well, you're a big boy now.
Yes. You keep all your money in a big something inside a zoo.
I will say, he's very much like the little girl with the little curl. When he's good, he is very, very good. But when he is bad, well, we'll get to that.
Bram Stoker's Dracula.
And there's a lot of people that really like that film. I just don't know why.
Yeah,
strangely,
I don't understand that.
There's a lot of people who like this week's film. But
yeah,
we'll
this
get into
film
that.
is very divisive. But yeah, there's tons of stuff about him. But we'd be spending all day about it. So
let's do that
because other things.
Like what?
Yeah. I want to see you do. Come, hang on. Have you got your oxygen hooked up? Did you take?
Oh, I can't do it. Sorry. Oh, I can't encapsulate the plot.
I'm going to give you your shot of adrenochrome. There you go.
Yes, adrenochrome.
There you go.
Oh, I love that Paul Simon song, adrenochrome.
What?
I'd rather do that than this. Okay,
quit stalling.
Fine. The plot. To be fair, yeah, well, here, anyway. Caesar Catalina is an architect with a grand vision of building a utopia right in the middle of Rome. I mean, New York City, sort of. See, this is an alternate universe, in a way, where instead of our democracy, we live in a kind of current-day Roman Empire not long before its fall. Caesar's not your ordinary architect. Oh, no. He has the ability to stop time, which
all architects can.
We'll come back to. Mm-hmm. He's also invented this miracle substance called megalon that's kind of shiny. Yeah, we'll come back to that too, sort of. Thwarting him is the mayor of this city, one who sees Catalina's efforts as threatening to both the city and his power base. Every step Catalina takes causes Mayor Cicero to make a countermove to both thwart and discredit him. Catalina is the nephew of rich and powerful Hamilton Crassus, and Hamilton doesn't get what his nephew's trying to go for, but he kind of has a grudging respect for him and his creativity. His own son, Claudio, hates his cousin to no end, and like Mayor Cicero, is trying his best to bring down Catalina. Trouble starts to bubble when Cicero's daughter, Julia, meets and falls in love with Catalina. There can be no peace between them as long as this relationship continues, though publicly he can't do anything to stop it. And then things start to get weird. Claudio starts to rabble-rouse in a decidedly Nazi-ish way. The mayor becomes more outspoken against Catalina. Crassus has a stroke, or does he? Then murders his wife, wounds his son, but not before Claudio hires a kid to shoot Catalina in the face. There's no way to save the architect except to lather his skull with his own megalon, which fixes him somehow. Eventually, against all odds, Catalina opens his utopia, which is a shiny, glorious new Eden, which people are welcome to enter and inhabit. Stuff closed, the end. More or less.
The film. Amazing. You covered every single detail. Didn't leave anything out.
I left a lot of things out. There was a subplot with Catalina's wife's murder and his current mistress who ends up marrying Crassus. The fact that Claudio gets strung up by the masses he roused and he spends the first half of the movie dressed like a Roman goddess. But yeah, believe it or not, IMDb boiled down the plot to 2 sentences.
Really?
Yeah. Talk about leaving things out. So
yeah.
But as we often do, I see no reason not to start with the actors in this film. Mm-hmm. This is starring Adam Driver in his most Adam Driver episode or performance since Driving Miss Daisy. No.
Yep. He takes that Adam and drivers the hell out of it.
Well, sorry, before we go any further, This, is it an actor's film? Is it a writer's film? Is it a director's film? I have some quotes coming up from Mr. Coppola, and he did tend to let his actors go a little wild. Mm-hmm. So I guess our covering their performances, you have to take that in mind. So I want to say, of the main cast, there were two people that I think really grabbed the reins and ran with this, and Adam Driver's the first one.
Okay. Yeah, he really gives a bravura performance. He's just he didn't leave anything out on the field, as they say.
I think he's interesting.
Yeah,
I actually do. I think there's times when he's a little, I don't know where he's coming from, but I don't know how much of that is him and how much of it is other aspects of the film. It's nice to see him do something vastly different from Kylo Ren, which is how I'm sure most people know him. And I know he's done other things, but I think that's probably his biggest and best known role. And I think he's also one of the biggest proponents of this film, because this film is very divisive, whether you're on Team Edward or Team Jacob.
Team Mustache Dad.
Yeah, there's that too. So I think when he's on the screen, he's generally pretty interesting to watch.
Yeah, I agree. He doesn't hold anything back. He does a remarkable job with some challenging dialogue.
Occasionally, yeah.
Although I think I
got to say, he does the which soliloquy is it? It's Not to Be or Not to Be. It's the other one.
Yes, it is.
It is To Be or Not to Be. I actually really liked his performance of it because he actually brought it more down to earth. It felt more everyday speech, and it
like somebody talking. Yeah, he did okay.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. Almost directly opposite him, we have Giancarlo Esposito, who we first encountered in Do the Right Thing. I'm not sure if he had any major roles before that, but man, has he changed. Also see him from The Mandalorian. He was awesome in that. He is much more down to earth in his performance, and I think he's playing it more or less straight, and I applaud him for that.
Yeah, considering the surroundings, it's remarkable that he's really trying to do just a very basic job of he's trying to make Cicero, that name. I
know, right?
Just a person. Well, I think, and again, Giancarlo Esposito, I have yet to see him do a bad job.
No. And he's almost unrecognizable from when he was in Do the Right Thing. But, and that's just both his looks and his performance. But he is, I think, a very necessary, solid anchor is a good word for this. Anchor for the performances in this film.
In the good sense.
Yeah, in a good sense. He feels a little bit mob bossish in his position as mayor, but let's face it. Bit. That's not entirely inaccurate. So
no, he's the mayor of New York. What do you expect?
We have, is it Natalie Emanuel?
I believe it's Natalie Emanuel.
Playing Julia's sister. She's the daughter of the mayor. Mm-hmm. I'm not as familiar with...
Did you recognize her?
No. Oh, you told me, actually, when we talked about this afterwards. I had not recognized her from Game of Thrones, but you...
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I don't know if this is common in Coppola films, but it has a little bit of a Corman feel here in that there's women in this film, and sometimes they get to talk.
Well, I know most of the older ones, and he doesn't always seem to know how to do all that much with female characters.
No. And Julia ends up becoming, if not the muse for Caesar Catalina, there's a name too, really. That's Adam Driver. She's his love, and she's his reason for continuing on. She's fine, but she doesn't really have a lot to do.
No, not as much as a lot of the others do. And it's hard to get a handle on her character. She goes from party girl to sort of corporate espionage to wide-eyed idealist to mother figure pretty quickly and kind of without any reason.
Yeah, and let's face it, this is meant to be literally a Roman drama. So there are big chess pieces and there are small chess pieces. And she's not a big chess piece. She could have been
supposed to be.
Yeah, she's not, which is I can't say one thing or the other really. She's fine when she's on screen, but she's not given a lot to do. But luckily, the next person in the list, Aubrey Plaza, she's given tons. No, she isn't.
No, not a lot, but Aubrey Plaza is a gift from the gods, and you will not speak ill of her lest I strike you down.
I don't know her from anything else. What do you know her from?
Oh, she's done tons of stuff.
Yeah.
Parks and Recreation, Legion, all the God, a lot of stuff. She's much less mainstream than a lot of these other actors. She was mostly an indie darling, but she has this great dark humor edge to her.
Well, she plays a character called Wow Platinum.
Yeah, I know, and which is a character name that I think an 8-year-old girl would have come up with.
I mean, I guess she's supposed to be this social media mogul kind of character.
Yeah, sort of turned into a kind of supposed to be a journalist.
Kind of in the same way. Who was that woman who used to be on Entertainment Tonight?
Oh, Mary Hart.
Yeah, she's sort of like a current day Mary Hart, I guess, in a way.
I don't know. I think of her more like the guy on, what is it, CNN Money or Fox Money or one of those, who has all the sound effects and leaps around in a hyperkinetic way. He's just clearly doing a show.
Well,
I wouldn't trust him with 2 nickels.
Well, and she is Caesar Catalina's
girlfriend mistress.
Yeah, they say mistress, which doesn't make sense because his wife has died, so I don't know why mistress is even brought up. But he basically gets to the point where he's like, well, I'm not going to marry you. I mean, I wasn't interested in that. And she's like, well, I want you to be this. And he's like, I don't want to be that. And then she goes off and marries Hamilton Crassus, played by John Voight, which thankfully is meant to be uncomfortable. But it's also pretty obvious.
He's about 15 times older than she is.
Yeah, but I think it's also fair to say that not only is it meant to be uncomfortable and weird, but there's no point where you get the idea that he's in control of that whole thing. She's definitely the one pulling strings.
Well, I ain't saying she's a gold digger, but yeah.
And then we get to Shia LaBeouf.
Okay, to be fair,
Claudio.
I didn't recognize him for almost the first half of the movie.
He's dressed as a Roman goddess.
Yeah, and he's clowning around and doing wildly over-the-top stuff. And I thought that was when he was at his most interesting, when he was playing kind of the mad fool.
Yeah.
And then he takes the makeup off and he turns back into Shia LaBeouf, and you just want to smack him.
Well, here's the issue. Shia LaBeouf did some movies and then had this episode which caused him to go into public wearing paper bags that said not famous anymore on them, which drew more attention to them than if he had just shut up and gone to said events. And basically just, I don't know what happened to him, but it was weird and annoying. And I can't help but wonder if Coppola's just like, you just come on and be yourself. I'll just film that. Because it kind of feels like some of the outbursts that he's had over the last few years.
The character goes through very unexplained changes in this. He goes from being the fool to being, I don't know, like Caligula or Donald Trump, really.
Well,
I'm sorry. I hate that's a spoiler. I sure hope nobody catches the subtleties like the guy wearing the Make Rome Great Again hat.
Yeah, and I think that there's somebody else in this film that's meant to be more like Trump, but that's okay. I would say that LaBeouf's character starts off a lot like Mercutio, and we're going to come back to Shakespeare. And if Mercutio hadn't died, I think that that's the issue, is like we know what to do with him up to this point, but in Romeo and Juliet, he dies, and I guess we'll make him a Nazi. And it's, it's not that he's inconsistent. He's just, as we said, there's 2 actors that really ran with things. This is the other one, and I think he ran with it even more than Adam Driver did. He's captivating, but you're still, for me anyway, there was still that edge of, really? I find him grating.
I suppose, but I do have to say, in this, he did not, I don't think he did his standard Shia LaBeoufing.
Luckily, there was no go, now, move.
No, he wasn't like, this portrayal, I think this performance was different than his others, which is unique.
Yeah. John Voight, I honestly didn't know he was still around.
And he does a very good job being a pretending to be senile old man.
I got to say, in general, he's the one who's supposed to be Trump, by the way.
To a degree.
Yeah.
To a degree, except he's not as insane.
No.
I think Claudio is way more Trumpian.
Yeah.
You almost Crassus is what Trump would like to be.
Yeah, because he's got some actual class to him at moments. Although his final scene is really oddly funny, but
Yeah.
in a very uncomfortable sort of way because he's trying to bring your attention to what's supposed to be a very large interest he suddenly has because of a drug
A
he's taking.
husband's bulge.
Yeah. Good for John. You're still out there.
Yeah.
You're still punching. Good for you. Lawrence Fishburne, I'm going to go with one of our favorite terms lately, wasted. He's in this,
Yeah.
but here's a great actor who's basically playing a butler. Oh,
Yeah,
and he's a person
and
of color. That's okay.
Not even an interesting butler,
No.
you know?
No.
He doesn't, he gets, he's supposed to be, at some point you get the feeling he's supposed to be our eyes. He's the eyes of the world. He's the one who's going to record all this.
Well, he's the narrator.
Yeah, kind of, and it just doesn't go anywhere.
No.
It's nice to see Coppola giving his family a few jobs. So we got Talia Shire as Constance Crassus.
Yeah, she's there. So
She exists.
yeah. Then speaking of the family, we have Jason Schwartzman, which I think is her son, playing Jason Zanders, who's there.
I'm sorry, Jason Schwartzman can do really good work, and he's completely unused.
Well, his part is really small.
As is, Dustin freaking Hoffman is in this movie.
Apparently.
And if I hadn't told you this, you would not be unforgiven for not remembering or realizing.
Oh, he had one of my favorite parts in the film, but we'll get back to that.
What?
Oh, we'll get back to that.
He has like 2 lines.
I know, and one of them made me laugh. So
Okay.
yeah, he's not even the major. We also get, I think he was in, God, what movie was it? It's either White Squall or Newsies. Is Balthazar Getty, who I think is Coppola's grandson, and he's apparently in there somewhere, but I didn't recognize him or care.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where you go, oh yeah, he was in that. Mostly I know him for having one of the coolest names.
Yeah.
Balthazar Getty. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
we got Catherine Hunter as Teresa Cicero.
Sure.
I only bring her up because I was like, where have I seen her? Oh, God, she was the witches in Macbeth.
Oh, which one?
The one with Denzel.
Oh, okay.
See our entire episode on Macbeth.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The Scottish play.
La 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 la. Yeah. Neither of us is in a theater, nor plans to be.
No.
So we've got a pretty good corral of actors.
We have a remarkable corral of actors. Can I mention one other?
Oh, who?
Chloe Fineman. Now, I am willing to bet you didn't even recognize her. Unless you watched Saturday Night Live, you wouldn't. She was one of the 3 possibly incestuous sisters, Claudia Pulcher.
Oh, okay, sure.
And talk about waste. How do you have Chloe Fineman in a movie and not let her be funny? That's just a complete waste. You know what they said? Said, get me a skinny actress with big eyes. Like, all right, here, Chloe, you want a job?
Well, in that case, she did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a corral of actors. I don't think any of them's a bad actor. Shia LaBeouf remains to be seen. Maybe he can dig his way out. I don't know. Some of them are going wild with, actors gone wild. Woo! And some of them,
as long as Dustin Hoffman doesn't do that.
I think he's honestly gotten shorter. I don't think anybody does a bad job. I think some of them go more crazy than others, but in some ways, this is an actor's film, but in some ways it's not. So, sure, I'm willing to give them all a pass. If this was a pass-fail movie, I'll give them all a pass. So, Adam Driver, I think, is a standout. Giancarlo Esposito, I really appreciate him doing what he did. And then the rest of them are up and down depending on what they did. So, but I could ask you a quick question, Max. Why did you go see this?
Some friends invited me, and I also was like, I want to see this. This is like the first Coppola film in a decade.
Yeah.
And certainly the first one I've seen since probably Bram Stoker's Druncula.
Yeah, which is fair. That's the last one of his I've saw, too.
I could be wrong. There might be some of those like where you go, oh, he did that right, or he was the producer on that. I wanted to see what he'd come up with. He'd waited so long. I heard this movie had been, cooking for 20 years.
Yeah, more.
And there are people who talk about the fact that this may be his last movie, at least as a director.
Well, he's 85. Right. He is still very mentally competent. I've seen some up-to-the-date interviews with him. I have some quotes that I'm going to throw in a second. And I think that mentally he is certainly capable of doing more films. It's the financial part that he's going to have trouble with because I hate to say this, but I think that he is not going to be able to buy back the loan on his grape farm. There shall be no more Maison de Velour coming out of Coppola. Yeah. See our previous
and a grateful nation breathes a sigh of relief.
I've tried one of his wines. It was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It was a claret. I forget which one it was, but it was okay. So I have some quotes if you're interested in some quotes. These are quotes all from Coppola himself having to do with this film. They're all very recent. The first one is, quote, "I do believe that artists have to not be afraid of risk. That risk is part of the artistic formula, that you sometimes have to leap into the unknown to express how you feel. You can't be like the company that wants to make fast food that is habit-forming so that people will eat the same thing. They're trying to do that to movies. Movies are not fast food. Movies are a living art form that tries to illuminate life for people and help them see the world they live in as clearly as possible," end quote. So how would you relate that quote to this film?
Okay, I gotta say that I think that does relate. I think this film is very risky. I think Coppola takes a lot of risks in this film. It's, especially for him, it's very outside his comfort zone.
It's technically a science fiction film, but it's only for two elements, I guess, which we'll come to in a second.
Yeah. But it's a very different sort of film for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he does take a lot of risks. He uses so many different film techniques in this film.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think he uses all of them.
Well, he really wanted to use that really cool setup they made for The Mandalorian, where it's like a room of screens that can project fake backgrounds, sky, ground, everything. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't afford it. So he ended up doing mostly green screen. But he really wanted to use that. And I don't know if that would have mattered. In the end, it probably not, because I didn't have any issues with the special effects.
I do think this was a daring, risky move.
The problem I have with the quote is the last part of the quote. Movies are a living art form that tries to illuminate life for people and help them see the world they live in as clearly as possible.
Okay, that's an opinion. I suppose you could go with that, but to make it a statement like that as an absolute, that's a little silly.
Well, I also would like to point this at this movie. Do you think that this film achieves that?
No, good Lord.
Okay.
Nobody's life is like that. I mean, it's true, I stop time on a pretty routine basis, but...
only in the bathroom. I don't know what that means.
No, their time just slows to a crawl.
I don't think that it illuminates anything and makes it clearer. That's my problem. I'm not, well, yeah, we'll come back to this part, but yeah, I think it's not clear. So, second quote.
Yeah.
Quote, "Like Apocalypse Now, I was making a film I really didn't know how to make. And when you make a film that you really don't know how to make, the film starts telling you how to make it. And it happens in the editing process that when I shot the film, I did a lot of things with the actors that were unusual to sort of help prepare them. When we would look at it with all the team, we'd all sort of say, let's do more like that and less like the more normal. We'd do these unusual takes at first to get the actors going, and then later on we would do the typical way the movies are supposed to be done, but we kept saying, let's do more like the unusual ones. That's more interesting. It seems to be telling us something." So what do you think about that in the approach to the acting of this film?
It is unusual. I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
You don't have any more time.
What about you?
Well, all right. So on a very, 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 very small level, I am an actor. I act in a podcast,
Not
Cue
that
Footsteps.
Small. You do voice acting?
Here and there, little tiny things. And I got to a point where I was confident enough. There was somebody I do a little voice acting for. She has a live The Sims comic thing on YouTube that I do voice acting for. And I will tell you this, the people that I've done voice acting for often need to be coerced into directing. Like, I need you to tell me more what you want. And the last time I did one, I did something where it's like, hey, I'm going to give you this take. Let me now do it. That was the way you wanted it. Let me do something. Let me just try something. And I know that real actors actually do this. And sometimes you get something really cool, and sometimes you get train wrecks. I think in this case, that was not a mistake. I think it was actually something that did make the film more interesting to watch. It's the problem I have is marrying that acting with the rest of what was going on, meaning the writing and the directing, where things may have gotten muddy and weird. What do you think? You've had 30 seconds to think now.
Yeah. The acting often doesn't match the movie, I don't think. I think it's jarring in some cases. They're trying, it's like, every once in a while I was watching him going, oh, he's trying to do I, Claudius. He's trying to make this a Roman epic.
Yeah.
And not only that, and then I start going, oh, okay, so if we see this person as Livia and this person, as Claudius, like, oh, wait, nope, I'm wrong. Nope, doesn't have it. Nope, nope. And some of them are trying to give these sort of formal acting presentations, and some of them are trying, like Giancarlo Esposito, to just talk like people.
Yeah.
I think most of the dialogue in this movie is very affected. I mean, I assume he's doing that on purpose.
Yeah.
And the actors are trying to work through the affect, and I think sometimes it doesn't work.
Well, not everybody's on the same page, right?
Yeah.
So everybody is going crazy in their own way, or they're choosing not to go crazy, which doesn't match necessarily. And again, Giancarlo Esposito, again, I am so glad that there is this pillar of strength at the top of this film that we can all come back to and go, okay, at least I know what he means.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes Aubrey Plaza, who, again, I thought did a really good job, but it's like, are you in the same movie? Because she's doing this sort of psychedelic kind of crazy, mixing in dance moves. It reminded me of her performance in the series Legion, where she is literally playing a hallucination.
Oh.
And
not a hallucinate tricks, but a hallucination.
Well, it's an oversimplification, but basically,
yeah.
Again, I thought it was really interesting, but it didn't fit. I didn't get it, and I don't know if Coppola just said, "Go do whatever you want, Aubrey," or he said, "I want you to do this exactly." Honestly, given who the two of them are, I'm assuming she was taking his direction, because he's Francis frickin' Ford Coppola.
Yeah,
and she is an indie darling, but not mainstream. I think she would have been, I would think, a little intimidated to just do her own thing.
I saw this movie with my buddy the Wheeze, and his comment was, "I can't believe she's in this movie."
She seems out of place. I'm happy she gets to be in a big film like this.
Yeah,
but she does seem out of place.
Yeah, I guess having read and listened to what I have, I think it's meant to be an actor's film. I think that Coppola really wanted, and perhaps even leaned heavily on the actors and their performances to carry the story in this film. I don't know that it works all the time, but I'm sure a lot of the actors I've seen have been very outspoken in favor of the film and Coppola in general. So I think that there's a good melding there of trust and understanding of what actors do. But we'll get to whether the rest of it works. I have one more quote. It's very short.
Okay.
Quote, "All I want for this movie is to start a conversation. You can't have a utopia without conversation." End quote. I got to say, in that case, he's done a fine job, because here we are talking about it.
People are talking about this film. Yeah. Whatever else you say about this film, the one thing people are not doing is ignoring it.
No. Well, I disagree there. If $4 million is anything to use as a yardstick,
they're maybe not going to it, but a lot of people are talking about it. Even people who haven't seen it, even people who won't see it.
Yeah,
I do. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I do have to say, I don't entirely agree with you that it's an actor's movie.
No, I don't think it's entirely.
Coppola,
I think I think he leans heavily on them.
Okay, that I would go more with, because Coppola is a director's director, and this is. I still feel, even if it's not true, this feels like a last hurrah for him.
Yeah.
This is like, I am going to do everything. I'm going to have split focus shots. I'm going to have multi-screen shots. I'm going to use green screens. I'm going to make it look like a music video. I'm doing everything.
Yeah.
All at the same time.
And Shia LaBeouf.
And I'm going to have Shia LaBeouf in there anyway.
I do have a question I'd like you to ask. I'd like you to ask. I'd like to ask you.
All right, I will ask. I would like a trip to Europe.
Who's this movie for? I asked this question just to see Max's expression and to hear that groan.
Who is it for?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to say it's for Coppola himself. I think this is a love song of his, if not necessarily to him, but to making movies. I mean, I don't know if I'd call it the whole thing is an ego trip. You have to have a lot of ego to be a director. Come on, look at what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
But I don't know who this is for. I don't think it would get young people into it to go, oh, wow, this Coppola guy's amazing. I don't know how his older fans would feel. I think honestly Hollywood people would really like this movie because it uses every kind of Hollywood they can stuff into it.
What kind of Hollywood people? Because my feeling is the higher ups, the producers, the studio heads, those people, this is not for them.
I'm thinking more the boots on the ground people, the actors, the directors, even the crew people, the stunt people. If anything, I would say it's for them. What do you think?
Well, it's not for the masses, though it seems they're the ones we're more or less supposed to root for in this film. And it's not for the rich people because they're the most skewered. My feeling was it's probably for film buffs, insiders who want to congratulate someone for coming in and shaking things up. So not entirely off what you said. But those aren't the folks that are going to help you recover your costs or pad your pockets. So we've got a film that costs a lot of personal money. But I can't help but wonder if he is so disconnected from the average person, the people who go to films and spend lots of money, people who see Marvel films. I mean, last week, Love and Thunder somehow made $750 million. Now, I'm not saying that you should make movies like that's his whole point. You shouldn't just make movies like that.
Yeah.
But The Godfather certainly made a lot of money, and that movie was not like other films that had come before it either. So it's captivating in a way, but it's too mainstream to be an art film and too art to be mainstream. For me, what it causes us to do is ask a lot of questions, and it doesn't provide many answers to those it does. And it honestly doesn't feel as deep as maybe the movie wants us to think it is.
Yeah, I did get the feeling this movie is like, oh, there's going to be a major message here. This isn't just going to be a series of interconnected events. It's going to be he's trying to say something. And then I thought the ending completely undercut that.
Well,
I remember thinking, this is a great man story. This is like, here is the great man trying to do a great thing. That whole scene, there's a whole scene near the end where they're in Times Square and everyone's cheering, and we see Caesar's mother walking through the crowd.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, she's going to shoot him. No, I'm serious.
Why?
I'm absolutely serious because, first off, that's the kind of thing Coppola likes to do. He likes to shock you. He likes to suddenly change directions.
Well, he already did that with the kid, but...
Yeah, but this is his mother, and this would be the ultimate betrayal, and she's crazy, so it's set up that way, that she could be that mad. I'm like, okay, he doesn't like to have heroic characters win. So he's going to have to destroy him. And I thought, is part of this, like saying, look, Caesar is too good for this world. The world doesn't deserve his magic city with his super glowy ultra trickium.
Well, Megalon, which is the name of a monster in a Godzilla movie. Like, really? How could you not know that? Couldn't you pick anything else?
But, Meganite. I don't know.
Oh, no. Calgonite. So the last 20 minutes or so, they just feel so detached from the rest of the movie. It feels dreamlike, perhaps even like a fantasy. So are we supposed to believe that somehow Caesar has fully healed, he's regained his ability to see his project through, and that everything is happily ever after? Or should we assume he died and this is the afterlife? Because, let's face it, he gets shot in the face through the eye by a kid in a paperback book. He holds the paperback book up to get it signed, and then he shoots through it. He's dead. I'm sorry, he's dead.
Most likely. Not 100%. This has happened. People have gotten shot in the eye and survived.
Okay.
It can happen. Depends at the angle.
Well, here's this. They couldn't do anything but slather this megalon into his face. And we see him with like this stuff glowing in his face. And then as he's recovered, he keeps that part covered up until somebody pulls off the cover and we see it's all glowy and weird and stuff. And then the next shot, it's gone. Like, it's fine. We don't know what happened. And again, that last chunk of film, it's almost just like, everything that got in your way, we're just going to shove it off to the side. See, we took care of it. Ta-da, here's your amazing utopia. Everyone can come in and live rent-free and whatever. I don't know. And if
interesting.
If that is the case,
think of that, but
if that is the case, what does that do to the message of the film, which seems to be very pro-art and pro-make your stuff and the world will come follow you to it, like this film? I don't know. I was confused.
Yeah, I was too. The ending threw me.
I will say there's some genuinely funny moments in this film. They tend to be funny because of how bizarre they are. I said we'd come back to this. Is one scene. It is a 3-second shot. Dustin Hoffman is walking basically across the screen. We just cut to Dustin Hoffman, and he goes, "Hey, look at that!" And then we cut away. I don't, and I couldn't help but laugh because it's like, what the hell was that? Why is this in here? And then, of course, when John Voight asks what people think of his arousal, I actually thought was pretty funny. Just again, because it was so bizarre. And, I think
I kind of like the Colosseum, the idea of, again, Francis Ford Coppola, and I will say this about all his stuff, he has many wondrous gifts and many abilities. Subtlety is something that happens to other people in his world. He is not subtle. He will hand you a nice helmet with a comfortable strap at the beginning of the film because he's going to spend the film hitting you over the head.
Yeah.
The whole thing with I was like, why aren't you just throwing bread at people? Come on, we get it. Bread, circuses. I like the idea that the gladiatorial combat was basically ultimate fighting / pro wrestling.
Well, what was it? American Gladiators.
Uncomfortably. It's like, that's uncomfortable. Oh, no. They didn't do that because they didn't have the ridiculous costumes or the, clubs or the pugil sticks.
The costumes weren't unridiculous.
They were a little ridiculous, but it was more pro wrestling, I think.
American Gladiators just kind of wore sports gear. They didn't really wear anything crazy.
Yeah.
They didn't have pugil sticks, though. I missed the pugil sticks. Those are the giant Q-tips that you just bap each other with. But yeah.
Yep. And there's that baffling, to me, part where they have the Vestal Virgin, the pop singer Vesta Sweetwater, who's supposed to be a consecrated virgin, who's played by an actual pop singer, apparently.
Yeah, whoever she was, I don't know.
Yeah.
Grace Vanderwall.
I don't know what that's doing in there. It's a, Claudio tries to use that as a way to damage Caesar's reputation.
Well, she's got this weird thing where her whole shtick is that she's a virgin and will remain that way until she's however old she's supposed to be. She's portraying herself as 16.
Yeah, and it turns out she's 23.
Yeah, and Claudio makes this fake video that he shows during the gladiatorial stuff of Caesar, his cousin, having sex with her and getting caught doing it. And this is supposed to credit him, and of course it discredits her. She kind of runs with it and decides, the heck with it, I'm going to become a bad girl now, which quite honestly makes her a lot more interesting.
Good for her.
I must admit, I am so tired of the whole stigma. If a woman has sex, it's bad. Oh, dear God.
Well, that's the whole thing with the Vestal Virgins. And the other thing with trying to make them like the Vestal Virgins weren't supposed to be chaste until marriage. They were simply supposed to be consecrated virgins for their entire lives.
Yeah, but just again,
they were never supposed to have sex. I don't know why, because Hestia or Vesta was the goddess of the hearth and the home, and that implies children.
Well, but you don't have sex at home. That's dirty. You do that out back.
Right. Yeah, that's right. You do that in the motels.
In the sexing shed.
Yep.
I just made that up. I don't know.
In the sexing silo. Yep.
Yeah, I definitely get the Roman references, as you said, are not subtle. Claudio, Caesar. He's not the actual person in charge. He's in charge of the dream, I guess. That's why he's given that name, Mayor Cicero.
And Cicero was the great rhetorician,
Crassus
and politician.
And he is crass.
Yeah. He is very crass.
I will not say that his comparison of today's political climate and that of Rome at its near to worst is not apt. I will say that there are definitely some comparisons to be made.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out it's colossally unoriginal. People have been talking about America as the new Rome for decades.
Have you seen it in a film?
This isn't new. This obviously? Sure. There must have been some. There have been Nova Roma films. There have been...
I think Nova Roma
there was an
from
episode
Marvel
of
Comics.
No. There was an episode of Star Trek about that.
Oh, yeah,
had,
bread and circuses.
Yes.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, no, this is not new.
Don't forget to buy the new Jupiter 8.
That's brought to you by Bang Bang.
No, though, that's piece of the action.
Out there.
Oh, God,
Details.
I know way too much about Star Trek. Way too much.
Yes, you do.
Well, and that's a good point. Bringing up Star Trek. Star Trek, at its best, would use science fiction in a way that it's often the best use of science fiction is when you take something that's otherworldly or fantastical or whatever and use it as a lens to a specific social issue that's going on now. And Star Trek did that a number of times, sometimes really well, sometimes not so really well, sometimes subtly, so they got it past the censors, and sometimes not subtly, that still somehow got past the censors. Let that be your last battlefield.
Yeah.
And so part of this film, I think that's the part that he was hoping would get a more public interest. It's like, okay, I won't be subtle, so you folks will get it. And then again, as I said, I think the problem is that there's nothing else beneath that. It's not like, it's like going to see certain Pixar or Disney films where there's jokes for the parents, but it's still a kid's movie. Except in this case, it's still a kid's movie. Like, I don't think there's anything else really subtle or deep or not on the surface that's being said necessarily. But the big question is, even with all of this, is it a film that we would recommend you see?
The Finish.
So, Max, I know when you saw it. You saw it last weekend.
Yes.
And I saw it opening day. I saw it the first showing, opening day last Thursday. How many people were in your theater?
Well, let's see. I went with 3 other people. There were 4 of us. We made up about half the audience.
Oh, yours is bigger than mine. There were 6 in mine. Yeah.
Ooh.
And for some reason, 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the end of the movie, 2 people left. It's like, you're going to wait till now?
There is something I wanted to bring up. Did you have live performers?
I'm sorry?
Oh, you didn't hear? There were a number of theaters where during like the press conferences and the time when the reporters are yelling out, as part of the movie, they would have actual people dressed as reporters running down the aisles, shouting questions and taking flash pictures.
So they were Rocky Horroring this?
They were Rocky Horroring their own movie. They were trying to make it more immersive, more interactive. Yeah, that was kind of my reaction.
No,
I was like, I'm glad that didn't happen.
No, there were not in the wonderful downtown suburbia of Michigan. No, we didn't have no performers. So you saw it just a few days ago. You saw it with
I did, about 4 days ago.
A total of 8 people, which I think is sadly how that's going.
Yeah, and this was on a weekend, you understand?
Yeah, mine was a Thursday night, but it was still a 6 o'clock show. What do you think? What's your final take, and would you recommend it to people?
I think it's a mess. I think it's a pretty to look at, incredibly expensive mess. I think he threw everything he had at the screen at it. Either everything stuck or everything fell off.
Okay.
I like seeing these actors. I like some of the visuals. I don't think it's good. It doesn't work for me. Maybe I am one of those people. There are people who love it. Maybe I just don't get it. But I'll tell you, I don't get it. It doesn't work for me. And I like Francis Ford Coppola. I love some of his works. The Godfather movies, Apocalypse Now, they have been shaping cinema for half a century.
Yeah.
You cannot overplay the importance of Francis Ford Coppola in American cinema. I don't know if he's the greatest, but he's one of the he's incredibly influential on so many levels. And this just didn't work for me. I thought this was incredibly pretentious. I thought all of the Catullus quotes and the Cicero and the Marcus Aurelius and the, look, we're quoting Shakespeare. That means we're smart. Ugh. It just, those parts just irritated me. I thought there were a lot of really good actors trying hard and just slogging through this morass of a script. I mean, I know he wrote it too.
Yep.
Under the influence of something.
Yeah.
It did not work for me. What about you?
No, I don't think it works. I think if all he's trying to say, and this is the best I can come up with, if all he's trying to say is you should give art a chance, like honestly, that seems like what it's supposed to be. And Coppola has said that of all his big films, they all usually come down to one word, and I don't know what the word is for this film. I think it's power. I think that's actually the word he used for this film. Okay, that's part of it, but what does that got to do with art?
Sure.
It definitely feels to me that he and Caesar Catalina are meant to be stand-ins for each other. Like, I think that Caesar's having to fight everything to get his utopia built is just like Coppola fighting everything in the system to get his films made. And I'm sure he went through that. If you've not seen Apocalypse Now, I understand it is a rough, hard to watch film. It is brilliant. Yes, the acting is way above board. All of it's Oscar worthy. And if you haven't seen that, I get it. But do yourself a favor. At some point, watch the documentary Heart of Darkness to see how he went through to make that film. Utter hell. I can't remember if there's one or two hurricanes that flattened the entire set, but that's just part of it.
He almost got the government of Cambodia. He almost came in to execute everybody.
Yeah, it's incredible, and the film is a really amazing film. It is one of those definite film school films that you should see because it's that well made, it's that iconic. I mean, we did shows on Godfathers 1 and 2 as well, and I was
and The Conversation.
And the Conversation, a great film, very
terrific movie.
Underappreciated. I think it doesn't come up a lot at all in Conversation. But
I see what you did there.
I was really glad I watched that. I actually got me on a little kick, and then I watched not The Line of Fire. What's the one with
Enemy of the State.
Enemy of the State. Yeah. Got me to watch Enemy of the State again, which I liked. So blah 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 blah. But one of the big problems I have with this movie is that it uses the language of the blockbusters. So we have some big name actors, some high-end special effects. We have a couple of science fiction elements that literally go nowhere and don't need to be there. So we have this time stop ability. What effect does that have on the plot? Let me see. Nothing.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be... Is he literally stopping time, or is it supposed to be a metaphor for the way an artist captures a moment?
Well, he says that in the film. Like, he says something about artists are able to stop time, and it's like, well, in a way, yeah, I can see that, make you stop and look. Even if it's something that's moving and takes time, like a film, the director has made you stop and look. But is this meant to be some sort of metaphor for... He made good films and he made bad films and he married his wife, although he's been with her forever and ever and ever, and then because he loses the ability to stop time and then he gets it back from Julia when he gets together with Julia, but it literally doesn't go anywhere. It certainly doesn't help him not get shot in the head. So
you keep...
That's one of two science fiction elements in the film. The other is Megalon. It's everything. It's nothing. It's a dirt topping. It's a floor wax.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be some sort of super adaptive material, but
I guess
we don't know. That's a guess.
We don't even need it. It literally has. What if you just built the utopia out of concrete? Who would care? What difference does it make? It doesn't. It's both undefined and unnecessary at the same time. So it uses these things, some high-end special effects, but it doesn't use them in the way they were accustomed to. And in essence, this is a piece of abstract art. But with abstract art, the general audience needs an entry point, something familiar that they can grab onto so they know where to start their journey. And with this film, it's those big budget elements, but the storytelling starts going all over the place. And at some points, it seems more or less straightforward as to what's going on. And then it veers so sharply off that we feel shaken and lost.
Yeah.
I can't tell if his entire point is give art a chance, or the downfall of America, or... is there something that's supposed to be even deeper than that? My feeling is there isn't, but the film tries to make you feel like there is.
Yeah.
And so
Which, again, might be some sort of subversive thing. It's like, I'm making you look for deeper meaning, and there isn't any because that's the nature of art. Art is what you bring to it. I don't know.
I would say this. This is definitely an example of one of those things where I think that people who like this film are bringing a lot of themselves to it. Either an appreciation of Coppola or appreciation of, I can't even call this guerrilla filmmaking because even though he did it all by himself, by his Maison de Velour.
He's the 800-pound gorilla.
Yeah. Oh, no, he lost weight. He stopped taking pot, so. I don't, like, if this had been a French independent film from the 60s, I think it might have worked fine. If it had not, honestly, I don't know that the money helped him. I almost think it would have been better. So one of the things that performances reminded me of was that tour de force of performances from Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe in The Lighthouse.
Oh, The Lighthouse.
Because both of them were over the top, but it matched the environment and the feel of the film.
Yeah, it worked.
And here, I don't think the performances are bad, but they're so inconsistent from one actor to the next, and you can't. It's so hard to follow the film that more people than not, I think, are coming out going, "What happened? What was that? I don't get it." And you're not giving people. You're using things they're used to, and you're not using them the way they're used to, and then you're just not giving them a chance to grab on and make sense of it. So in the end, I would say this: if you're a Coppola fan, if you're a big film buff, I would go see this in the theater while you can, because I don't think it's going to be one of those films that you're going to want to or allow yourself to sit all the way through at home. I think it's going to be so easy to want to get up and use the bathroom or pause it and go get something to eat or look at your phone.
This is also a big screen film.
Yeah.
Whatever else it is.
Yeah, and he does use the screen, all of it, to his best effort. I don't know who it's for. And I don't know entirely what it's for.
I'm not sure who the audience is supposed to be.
So, yeah. So, next week, we will be starting our new series, Ready When You Are, CB, where we look at movies about movies or the making thereof, or Hollywood, or stuff like that there. In the meantime, don't forget about our poll question, which can be found on our Facebook page, Max Mike Movies, or on our website, maxmikemovies.com. And in the meantime, don't forget you can email us with just about anything, whether it be comments, suggestions, ideas, predictions of the future, or biofeedback results, to us at maxmikemovies.com. Or heck, give us a call and do the same. That number is 617-398-7266. That number again is 617-398-7266. Operators are standing. No, there is no operators. Nobody's standing by. There's no tote bag either.
I would like to say to that nice Nigerian prince, I'm getting the money together. I'll be sending it soon.
I'm sure you are. Don't forget the candy bars. He likes candy bars.
Yep.
The movie we're starting off with is The Player, a Robert Altman look at somewhat seedier side of Hollywood as it was back in the good old days of the 1990s. You know, the golden age of Hollywood. Well, golden shower age of Hollywood. Oh! I don't have... if you don't know what that means, don't look it up.
That's not right.
But till next time, I'm Mike. That's Max. So back into the box, Max. And this time,
that's a lie, and
there.
You know it. But it's so cramped in here.
I left you paper shavings and a carrot.
This has been a co-production of The Voice of Max and The Movie Wrench.